When I was growing up, the only thing stopping you from wearing gaming clothes was being savagely bullied. Now, the only thing stopping you is $1,700, and this thing sold out in minutes. Gaming is apparently now cool enough that people will spend luxury brand money to represent their favorite franchise, despite most collaborations not being very good. This is Armored Core here with very special guest Owen Hyatt.
Hey Ann, how's it going?
Welcome back to the channel where we talk technical fashion, trends, fashion culture. Let's look at the rise of gaming clothes, why they often come across so bad, and how you can get the good stuff. Earlier this month, Hideo Kojima took to the stage at Tokyo Game Show to excitedly announce more details of upcoming game Death Stranding 2, a follow-up to his studio's first game in 2019. Famous actors, extremely high graphical fidelity and cinematography, a dynamic photo mode so outfit pics for the squad are gonna go crazy. Joining him on stage was this guy, fashion designer and creative director of technical brand Acronym, Errolson Hugh. Because as well as announcing game details, Kojima-san revealed that the jacket worn by several characters in the game was designed by Acronym, and it was real. You could buy it. In typical Kojima fashion, aside from a few teasers in the preceding days, this was a surprise reveal, and gamers were no doubt also surprised to visit acronym.com and see this jacket retailed at $1,700, and then that it sold out in a couple of minutes. Surely you'd have to be totally insane to spend that much money on a jacket, let alone a piece of essentially gamer merch. You could buy 40 Triforce tees and matching cargo shorts for the same money. But people are spending crazy money on gamer clothes. Just last month, Gentle Monster and Tekken announced a collaborative pair of sunglasses with Mishima family-inspired devil horn arms and flame rims. It was packaged in a boxing glove, priced at over $500, and yeah, it sold out on the day. Arcade sell a £2,000 dress with an all-over lands between map print. Gamers are definitely no longer restricted to the graphic tees of the early 2000s that outed you as having not showered that week. And yet still, most gaming and fashion crossovers still come across as omega level cringe, plagued by uninspired designs. What happened? Fashion houses realized the insane cultural impact of video games. They should be able to give gaming fans an elevated, sophisticated way to reference that passion. Burberry and Minecraft, Balenciaga and Fortnite, APC and Pokemon, Louis Vuitton and League of Legends. Can you see anything that all these collaborations have in common?
All these collaborations you mentioned are built on the same ideas that I think uninspired hypebeast culture is built off of. Mass popularity while taking as minimal of a risk as possible. Basically, let's find the biggest name in X and put that logo on Y's product purely for brand recognition.
So basically, they all suck. The collab is almost predicated on the idea that games are not cool enough by themselves to be worn in a fashion context. They need to be gentrified by luxury fashion labels, or someone who can handle the IP, do those worlds justice through that fashion design experience. But it seems like in many of these cases, the only thing making these appear as fashion products is the inclusion of a luxury label to signify that to us. We don't need these brands telling us what's cool. Surely we can just go straight to the source and save a bunch of money in the process. Unfortunately, game publishers can't be trusted to put out cool clothing. Boy, I hope one of the greatest games ever made with an incredible wealth of visual material and character customization has some cool clothing that I can But surely Cyberpunk 2077, a game where clothing and aesthetics are an integral part of the world, where expressive character design is everywhere, will have some great yeah. Game publishers probably just don't have the resources to execute clothing at a high level. It's an afterthought to profit from superfans rather than a true creative exploration or focus from the business. The closest you might get is the sort of lifestyle gaming crossover brands, things like 100 Thieves or Razer. So why don't fashion collabs fix that? My speculation is it's partly an IP issue. Characters have to be used a certain way, logos need to be a certain size, iconography has to be approved by multiple teams. It's probably just difficult to get anything creatively interesting off the ground and released in time. Almost forcing safe designs because that's the only thing brands can reliably execute. Just look at the wealth of Pokemon collabs out there. How many of them rely so heavily on Pikachu and the Kanto starters and the Pokemon logo? Literally the world's biggest media franchise, by the way, and this was the best they could come up with. They put cool stuff in the games, why can't we dress like Pokemon trainers? I want to wear the Lucario outfit in Pokemon Battle Revolution. We have to be real, there are business reasons too. Many people are probably very happy to see recognizable character plus recognizable logo, and if that's all it takes, why try any harder? But I can't blame everything on creative processes and boring business stuff. What else is going wrong here, and how can we fix it? Gaming clothing often feels inauthentic, and I don't think it's just high fashion gentrification doing that. Often when game clothing becomes real, it's costume quality or watered down in some way to meet price points or design challenges. So it often doesn't live up to what we experience in-game. I also think it's relevant that gaming doesn't necessitate a kind of outfit or uniform to participate in it. These clothes become a part of you when used to engage in the activity they were made for. Yes, we've been sold gaming performance gear, from glasses to esports jerseys to footwear, but you don't need anything to be a gamer. And I think that's a real positive of the hobby, that you can engage in it however you choose to present yourself. So anything that's gaming branded or designed for gamers has this inherently contrived element about it. Don't let me see you wearing a Death Stranding jacket if you've never encountered a BT. Gaming supplements also saw popularity for all-night energy, performance enhancements, maximizing your gamer time. Not necessary, probably not very good for you, and I would much rather eat actual food without preparing it taking up my whole evening. And that's why I found this video's paid sponsor HelloFresh to be a pretty good balance. And before you say, oh Antwon, I bet you just DoorDash pizza every night. Oh yeah? I've been cooking delicious, nutritionally balanced meals and picking from over 50 recipes a week for years. I've got more recipe cards than Acronym spec sheets, so it's actually a legit recommendation. Between working, making the best content I can, and gaming, I do not like wasting time, so it's good that HelloFresh gives me the flexibility to choose a lot of quick and easy meals for those weeks that I need to be locked in on my Sigma grind set, but also be a bit more adventurous when I want to. I was glazing and amazing this week cooking these pork steaks, and I save a lot of time planning and buying groceries because each box is customized and contains pre-portioned ingredients. It takes literally 1 or 2 minutes a week on the app to sort evening meals, and I still get to eat a big variety of stuff, which is important to me. You can get all that plus a free breakfast item per week for life. Can I get that? I can't get that, but you can. So look, I do genuinely believe if you lead a busy lifestyle but want to maintain a healthy diet, HelloFresh is a pretty good option. I recommend giving it a try, see if it works for you. Just click the link in the description and use this code and you get 10 free meals and free breakfast for life. 1 breakfast item per box while subscription is active. If you're in the US, if you're outside the US, local discount will apply. Sponsored integrations help keep the channel going, so massively appreciate your support if you choose to give that a go. And I'm always super happy to have a sponsor on the channel who feels authentic to me. We saw lots of ways where gaming seems to have an inauthentic connection to clothing, which only exacerbates the feeling of cringe. But how can we find authenticity? It could be when designers are heavily involved in the creation of clothing from digital to real, so it can better represent the world of the game with no expense spared.
グッズの域を超えたもう規格外の存在です。本当に細かいこだわってて、はい。
That's an idea I'll return to because of another phenomenon I find interesting looking back to the past. The gamer tees, once considered anti-fashion and cringe, now being recontextualized and surprisingly cool. Owen is definitely one of the people leading that charge.
I honestly didn't know there was a cult following for gaming tees before I started grabbing some of my own and then showcasing them on my page and in my content. And then the deeper I've gotten into it, the more I've realized that it's like basically identical to the craze surrounding collecting vintage band tees. It's like the perfect intersection between wearing something that's nostalgic and maybe resonates with the wearer, and also just something that's really cool from a style standpoint.
There is a specific flavor of gaming tee that Owen looks to as part of his style.
Personally, I only go for tees from games that I consider part of my identity and part of my childhood. So a lot of survival horror games, shooters, action RPGs from franchises that are pretty much still around today, like Silent Hill, Resident Evil, and like these Soulsborne games that say make up most of my rotation as of recent.
These are traditionally not a fashion product, so do you think there's an interesting space, an intersection of gaming and fashion people can enjoy, and what does that look like for you?
What interests me about the intersection between games and style, and why good style in a game resonates with me personally, is the same way that I treat or view fashion in film. So if there's a character or aesthetic that I really appreciate or I think is like really, really cool, I want to feel enveloped into that created universe, then I'll experiment with style in a way to pay homage to it, whether it's like recreating a type of fit similar to those characters or just trying to go for the overall vibe.
Are there any fashion and gaming collabs you think are interesting?
I genuinely think that the Death Stranding Acronym collab is the strongest to date because it lives in the Death Stranding universe and doesn't look tacky outside of it. It doesn't look like cosplay, it looks like how people wear military surplus on the streets. So if I can imagine the characters in the game wearing the fashion pieces and looking seamless in the universe, then it will always miss the mark for me.
The Acronym and Kojima Productions collaborations generally come out quite favorably when it comes to gaming and fashion crossovers, but it's not the only successful representation of this idea. Disco Elysium is often quoted as creating this faithful and quality representation of Kim Kitsuragi's jacket from the game. It's subtle enough to feel like nice clothing first and gaming jacket second, even though it has a pocket for Kim's notebook and a subtle map of Ravachol on the back. The same could be said of Devil May Cry and Diesel, which brought Dante's over-the-top style to the denim brand without needing to rely on a logo. Testament to Kojima's interest in the fashion world, the release of Metal Gear Solid 5 also saw a Puma collaboration with the sneaking boot. Again, cool boot first, gaming product second, and it feels like it really could exist in that world. Very recently, Sansan Gear dropped a League of Legends collab which had some cool tee designs and just good-looking outerwear. I don't really know how closely this is related to League of Legends at all, but I'd definitely wear it. And although they never made them publicly, props to Red Wing for recreating Mario's boots here. It's just one step further in the big red bootification of fashion. Entire brands have sprung up to cater to this premium gaming merch idea. Arcade, who I mentioned earlier, are definitely putting some more fashion-forward clothes out there. You can imagine some of these things sitting on Essence, although others definitely have a bit more of an epic gamer merch look still.
There's still a perception that's slightly negative, and I hope that we can help change that even a little bit, you know?
It's an awkward spot to be in. Will gamers want to spend this much money on clothing which doesn't directly feel like it's from the game? And at the same time, will fashion fans want to buy this over a more established or recognized fashion brand just because of the gaming aesthetics and references? Let's return to the Kojima Productions stage. Is this where the pinnacle of cool gamer clothes was announced?
We spent a lot of time working together with Hideo and Yoji to make this jacket, and I hope you can enjoy it in the narrative, in the story, as well as in the story of your own lives. Thank you.
It is a fully realized product, translated between reality and game. The J91 was a real-world jacket before becoming part of the Death Stranding universe, and directly referencing the game whilst not relying on it for its aesthetic credentials. It shouldn't take a $1,700 product to do that. There needs to be some level of democratization, especially when cool vintage tees are a finite resource and only going to go up in price. Even forgetting that there are some elements with this jacket not everyone is going to like. The very nature of it being a game collab drags it down. I think that's partly because of the wealth of bad collaborations that we've already explored, partly anxiety about gaming being a lowbrow form of entertainment. Ridiculous, my spy gameplay is art. And partly fictional references on a real product coming across as cringe to them. I also have to consider the gaming fan perspective. Despite the high price, this is not a piece of luxury gamer merch. It's fashion product first, game second. So when this ships in a clear plastic bag with no supplementary material about the game or anything to really connect it to the game universe through its packaging, I can kind of imagine that being a bit of a disappointment. Like, there's nothing to display in your cool gamer room aside from the jacket itself. Some also take issue with this being a modified product. The idea that not even this price tag gets something truly unique which has never before existed in reality. Because it already kind of does in the form of the J91-WS. To be fair, at least I think this one is better, and I'll show you why. I like that it's allowed Acronym to realize the J91 as an outer layer. This one comes with a hood that the previous versions didn't, so you can wear this by itself, but it still has all the trappings of a mid layer with the cuff poppers, with the AUX zip functionality as well. You can zip this into another shell to give it warmth, or wear it by itself, still gonna give you rain protection thanks to the hood on the back. I think this version looks better on me than the original J91, which I ended up returning. I think having something bright works perfectly in a garment like this. When worn as a mid layer, it's that nice little pop of color, the little suggestion of something interesting going on, but when worn as an outer layer, you can really turn this into the true statement piece. They've also added tension zip pockets. I've had one open here, which fold out as you open them, making it more easy to access. Although I certainly would have liked a conventional hand pocket as well. With something that feels so cozy like this, you really do want to put your hands in it. As you can see, the J91 is pretty puffy, and it restricts this to being worn primarily over the wide fit shells that are more commonplace in Acronym's lineup now. It can technically fit under other shells, but it's a little bit tight in my opinion, and some lamented this not being a J58, which would have facilitated that, but I do understand why they they chose this model, because now so many of the Acronym shells are the wide fit. Speaking personally, I do think the J58 is more flattering on me than the 91, but I still like this anyway. The level of game reference here is totally fine by me. The orange color is the main defining feature, and that doesn't really call it out as being a game product. And while there's quite a lot of logos and iconography and text and stuff, none of it is too distracting, and I do like the style of graphics that they're using here. In my eyes, it's far more tasteful than the AliExpress techwear stuff, where a lot of this text is way bigger and more obnoxiously placed. They know the right level to stick to here, and it kind of reminds me of the ROG collabs, the RMT laptops, which similarly use lots of text and iconography, but just to that right level without it being too over-the-top epic gamer merch. They've done something on this jacket they never have before, included 2 jacket slings. They're using the old messenger-style sling on the inside, which can be moved to the outside, and a zip sling on the back as well. I think this was just a bit of a why not decision. We can give people the option to use the sling that they prefer. Of course, you can remove the internal one if you want to. I think that's on the basis that they've used the old style for a very long time now. They want to try something different, but not everyone likes the new style of sling. So hey, you've got options to do whatever you want. Although I do feel like most people's gripe with the zip sling is the way that it looks. So obviously having a second sling doesn't really solve that problem. Personally, I don't mind the look of the zip sling bisecting the jacket at the back, and I think it works perfectly fine. Having internal slings can sometimes be annoying. I most noticed that on the J97, but I've never had a problem with the zip sling on stuff like the J117. Even though the J91 is to me a good piece of clothing, there are still things that make this cringe to people, whether it's the gaming references being too overt, or the product being less ambitious than other luxury gaming collectibles. The Antwon and Kojima Productions watch, for example, feels like a whole in-universe experience thanks to its packaging. I value the things that make this unique, but I expect for most it won't be worth that additional cost. I think the best way to think about this is it's an alt skin for an Acronym jacket and not the ultimate collector's piece of Death Stranding merch. And indeed, I feel the same way about the previous clothing release, the J1A GTKP. You like gaming, you like fashion, what should you wear? Something I like about this trend, if you want to call it that, is that the coolest stuff seems to exist at both ends of the spectrum. Yeah, we've got try-hard, luxury, high-price stuff, but also all of these worn graphic tees never even intended to be fashion products at all. But just as good, if not better than all of those options, is to think of video games as inspiration rather than replication. Video games definitely inspire my style, even when I'm not literally wearing gamer clothing. We can take those inspirations or those design cues from characters that we think are cool or interesting. Yes, I bought a red leather jacket as a kid because I wanted to look like Travis Touchdown. It didn't matter that an official replica didn't exist. It was about capturing the theme, the vibe, the aesthetic, the color palette.
I don't care about titles or power. I just want to be #1.
And that's absolutely something that you can do as well, and in my opinion, a great way of injecting gaming into your style. I'll leave you with a final thought, and it's a thought big enough to be its own video. On social media every day, we see people dressing up like video game characters. Do we even need gaming clothing when game and reality are getting less distinguishable? When your style is consumed virtually, isn't every outfit kind of a video game outfit? The virtual and the real is always a fun topic to talk about, but thanks for making it to the end of this one, and massive thanks to Owen for supporting on this video.
Thank you, Ian. Catch you later.
Definitely go check out his socials. There's a whole lot of gaming tee content for you to enjoy. And also his brand Soma, I've mentioned them in a previous video, really consistent with Owen's overall aesthetic. So I think very cool, it feels very authentic for that reason. And there's some cool items in there that are definitely worth a look. Hope you enjoyed the video. Please give it a like if you did. I'll catch you next time.